Hi, Gareth here at SIOAOA. So, in a couple of recent videos, the subject of password resets has cropped up. Now, as I mentioned in those videos, password resets where there isn't the facility for users to self-serve can make up a sizable chunk of the work that the service desk has to handle on a day-to-day basis. And how the service desk handle these can be a hotbed of debate. Should they be logged as incidents? Should they be logged as requests? What I'm going to ask you to do right now is to pause this video, go to Google and search, is a password reset an incident or request? Take a look at the number of blogs, articles, messages on message boards stating that password resets are definitely one or the other. Once you've had enough of that, come back and I'll tell you what the actual answer is. See you in a bit. Did you enjoy that? Certainly a polarising subject, isn't it? As I'm sure you read, there are lots of people out there making a strong case for whether they should be incidents or whether they should be requests. So let's take a short amount of time to reflect on the arguments for both sides. Okay, well, as this is largely a debate over ITIL terminology, let's start with the definition of an incident. An unplanned interruption to an IT service. Okay, there we have it, case closed. I haven't intentionally planned on forgetting my password, and as I have, and as this means the access to my IT services is interrupted, this absolutely means my ticket should be classified as an incident, right? Also, the request process we use is from an online catalogue where users have to raise the service requests electronically. This then goes to a line manager for approval, and only once that approval is given, the clock starts ticking on the request SLA. And the service level for request is something like 2 days. There's no way a user is going to wait for 2 days for their password to be reset. These resets need to be actioned immediately so the individual can get on with their work. Plus, if a user is locked out of their services, how can they possibly access the catalogue to raise a request? And do we really want to be burdening line managers to have to approve these requests? Of course not, let alone what if they're on holiday? The user needs to be able to call at the service desk and have their incident, not being able to access their services, resolved whilst they are on the phone. Now imagine the loss of productivity if a user can't have their issue dealt with as an incident. And besides, we get loads of password reset calls where the user has stated that they've entered their password correctly, but it isn't working. Therefore, who are we to say that there isn't something wrong technically that IT have to fix in order for that access to be restored? Password resets are definitely incidents. Okay, as we did with incidents, let's start by looking at the ITIL definition and see if that gives us any clues whatsoever. A formal request from a user for something to be provided, for example, a request for information or advice to reset a password. There we go. Even the official glossary tells us that a password reset should be a service request. It's written in black and white. All those lunatics saying that password resets should be incidents, well, clearly they don't understand ITIL and they should probably start by looking at reading what the book says in the first place. And let's start by countering that argument that a user forgetting their password is an interruption to service. Incidents occur when something within the technology is broken, but a person forgetting their password isn't something broken other than their memory or their fat fingers on a keyboard. In this case, the user is requesting something from IT. Nothing is broken, and as they are asking for something, i.e. my password to be reset, to be provided by IT, then by definition, it's a service request. What that previous guy was saying about, well, how can a request be raised if the user can't access the portal to raise one? Well, in our service desk, we treat password resets slightly differently to other service request types. Firstly, we allow the user to contact the desk, phone up the desk, and providing they can provide their security information, we reset the password there and then. And their new password is emailed to the secondary account information that we hold on file. And they don't need to raise these electronically. They don't need line manager approval, and they certainly don't have to wait 2 days, which is the standard turnaround time for service requests. Therefore, any argument that these should be handled as incidents is just plain wrong. Password resets are 100% service requests. So, what is the answer? I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. And if you're worrying yourself about which process they fit in, you're worrying about the wrong things. Now, users are always going to forget their passwords. Therefore, the work required to reset them is always going to materialise, irrespective of whether you choose to log them as incidents or requests. Whichever process you choose to opt for should be immaterial, providing that the outcome allows you to meet the needs of your end users, which I'm guessing in this instance is for them to be able to access their systems and services when they need to, i.e. right away. As I said, these tickets, call them incidents, call them requests, are always going to arrive. Therefore, my advice is that any effort expended on how to handle them should be focused on reducing the impact that these episodes have. Firstly, from an end user perspective, but also the impact it has on IT handling them. If a password reset means your end users are disrupted for 2 minutes and IT has to invest time, money and effort addressing that every time it occurs, whether you call it one thing or the other isn't addressing the actual issue. Your users are disrupted and you have to fulfill every single time. So personally, I would do the following. Take away whether you call them incidents or requests and review the process of how these are handled. Review whether this is allowing you to meet the needs of your users and look for ways to make that process more efficient, more reliable and more consistent. Secondly, make sure you are measuring these and you understand why, when, how these episodes are occurring and whether there is more you can or need to do to address these. Now, I will say for most organisations I've worked in, the in-situ incident process lent itself better to handle password resets than the request process. That was the option that best allowed us to meet the need of the users consistently. Now, that's not saying incident or request is better than the other, that's just how we've done it. That said, for certain incident management reports, I decided to count password resets slightly differently. Now, we used incident volumes as a key indication of how stable services are or were. The more incidents occurring indicates bluntly more things are breaking. And therefore, a reduction in incidents was good indication that services were becoming or are more stable. In the summer months during holiday period, remember those things called holidays, when more people were out of the business, we expected to see a drop of incidents as the services were being consumed less. However, incident volumes actually went up. When we looked at the data, we found we were receiving more incidents related to password resets. And this was because people were returning from 2 weeks at the beach, not remembering the string of letters and numbers they had previously memorised that sun, sangria and other stuff had erased. Therefore, when reporting on the stability of IT services using incident volume as a key metric, I deducted password reset incidents from those measures as I felt it didn't fairly represent the stability of IT services. After all, strictly speaking, nothing is or was broken. However, what I did do with the data around password reset incidents was to quantify the impact these were having on our end users and us as the IT department. Now, that data was crucial in building the business case to invest in a self-service password reset capability. It wasn't really important what I called these tickets, but having a consistent way of capturing, categorising and measuring them allowed us to improve the service both from an end user perspective and from an operational management one too. Taking the time to identify a solution that effectively meant the argument was redundant. So in short, is a password reset an incident or a service request according to ITIL? Whatever side of the debate you're on, actually, continual service improvement is the answer. And of course, to invest in a self-service password reset option. So there we have it. Hopefully that concludes the argument once and for all. The final point to remember if you're embroiled in these sorts of debates, particularly when it comes to, well, what does ITIL say? Implementing ITIL successfully relies on two things, in my opinion. Understanding the framework and how best practice can be achieved, but also understanding your needs as an IT leader and the needs of your business. Ultimately, it has to work for you and your service. As far as I'm aware, there is certainly no award for winning ITIL top trumps, so focus less on being rigidly aligned to the framework and more about using what you can today to improve your end user service and making sure service improvement and maturity is an ongoing habit. Thanks for listening. Hopefully that solves any debates you have in your organisation about what ITIL says best, and I look forward to seeing you next time here at SIOAOA. Take it easy.